Good morning and welcome to the debate for United States Congressman, District 16. My name is Andy Krodick and I'm the Government Affairs Director for the Merced County Association of Realtors, who is hosting this morning's event. On behalf of our President, Skip Hinman, the Board of Directors, I welcome you. Our partners today are the Merced Sun-Star, Comcast, J.D. Sanders LLC, Merced County Times, and of course our own LCRC committee. Today's broadcast will be seen on Channel 95 Thursday night and Saturday, and it'll also be posted on the Merced Sun-Star's webpage, our own Facebook page, and our website. Before I introduce our guests, I'd like to tell them who we are. Locally, we are the Merced County Association of Realtors, over 500 members strong. In our association, we are realtors, appraisers, loan officers, escrow officers, home inspectors, termite inspectors, home warranty company representatives, and so on. We are Rotarians, we are Kiwanians, we are Line Club members, we're planning commissioners and members of the City Council. We are Republican and we are Democrat, we are conservative and we are liberal. So we are a true cross-section of the community, or as we call it, we are the Realtor Party. We don't just sell houses, we also give back to the community. Every year we hold 2 auctions in this very room, which the public is invited to, and donate the proceeds to the Merced County Food Bank, Salvation Army, Rescue Mission, and Boys and Girls Club of Merced. If you look to my left, you'll see a check that we gave a little over a month ago for $25,000 to the Merced County Food Bank. So we do give back to our community. Today's debate is the final in a series of debates that our association has held to better inform our members and also the members of the public for which we serve. We hope you find it insightful, and we hope that you vote on November 4th. First of all, I just want to say congratulations and thank you to our 2 guests. You guys are running for a very important job, a member of Congress. We're going to start with opening remarks in alphabetical order, and we're going to ask you to try and limit your remarks to about 3 minutes. If you hear the timer, simply collect your thoughts and finish your sentence, and we'll allow the next person to go. And we'll start with you, Congressman Costa, and you can remain seated, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. I want to thank the Merced Realtors Association for hosting this forum. I think it's very important that we have these kind of opportunities to debate the issues that are facing our valley and facing our nation. And I also want to thank not only your board, Andy and Skip, but also the good work you do in terms of supporting the community, as you noted, with the food bank and so many other things that you do to really help make Merced County and our valley a better place to live. That's why I'm very proud of the support that I've had over the years from not only the California Association of Realtors when I was in Sacramento, but now as a member of Congress from the National Association of Realtors, because notwithstanding the challenges we face, we all believe strongly that in terms of ensuring that America has a strong middle class, home ownership is part and parcel of that middle class, that strong middle class in America. People don't usually think about it, but home ownership results in so many important values in America being maintained and passing on to the next generation, from the most significant purchase that an American family ever makes in their lifetime is the purchase of a home. People don't think about that. But from that comes the understanding of financing, value of property rights, the ability to live in a neighborhood and where you want to raise your family, near your church or your synagogue, near schools that you want your children to go to. From home ownership creates an opportunity to create equity. That equity allows families to be able to borrow, to send their children to college. And so intrinsically, for over 70 years, home ownership has been part and parcel of what we call the American dream. And the American dream is all about ensuring that people have an opportunity to move up. And so you're where the rubber meets the road as realtors. It is your efforts that qualify those first-time home buyers and deal with the foreclosure crisis that we have worked on together here in the last several years. It's your efforts that bridge the gap between allowing people to refinance. It's your efforts working with a host of state and federal challenges that we deal with that try to ensure a long-term, stable housing market, and that's the key. And so that's what I've tried to do over the years, and I think that's a partnership that we've established, and I want to thank you for your advocacy. I want to thank you for your support, and I want to thank you for continuing to try to ensure that we make home ownership a continued vanguard of what the American dream is all about. So I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here this morning, and I am honored to have the privilege to represent you in our nation's capital.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Teixeira.
Well, thank you so much, Andy, and the board for putting this on. I count this an honor and actually a privilege and an opportunity to learn more about the realty market. Being a dairy farmer and the third generation and planning on surviving through the water drought and everything else that's going on here in the Central Valley, I want to make sure that we bring back life here to the Central Valley. And being a family member, a gentleman, and have 4 kids, I want to make sure that their livelihood is there for them as well, and to make sure that their prosperity, they can afford a home as well and go to college, and to make sure that the American dream is still alive here. Because right now it seems like the more we look at the news and we look at what's going on here in the Central Valley, we're losing that. And I think it's time for some new leadership and some new direction, some new insight, some fresh blood there. And I'm willing to give it everything I got to make sure that we survive. We have to survive here in the Central Valley. Agriculture is what brings back life here to the valley. And we can make this happen. This is the year to change things. And I'm so excited about the support and the friendships I have gained through the Merced area, Madera and Fresno, and the camaraderie of people just getting behind me and telling me their stories and making it to where I can represent you a whole lot better. Because being a country boy and just living out there in the country, you know, sometimes all you see is the backside of a cow or planting hay or cotton or corn. But until you actually meet face to face with my constituents and the people in my district, that's what short stories what helps me. It makes me a better candidate, makes me a better representative of you in Washington, D.C. And I thank you for your time, and I'm ready to learn today more about the industry and what my insight is and what my perspective is, and I'm ready to have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go into a couple of questions, and I emailed the topics so that the candidates are somewhat aware of what we're going to be discussing. But we're going to start with you, Mr. Teixeira. Members of both houses of Congress continue to discuss tax reform. And one of the components of tax reform is to do away with the mortgage interest deduction. What's your view on doing away with that? And what's your view on this important homeowner deduction?
Well, I believe that it's important that we give any kind of benefit we can to new homeowners to get into a house. If there's one thing that you see in Washington, D.C. is they're always trying to stifle anything when it comes to economic growth in business or anything else that comes down to the family person that's trying to make a living. And if the mortgage interest deduction can help out, then by all means, I support that and want to make sure that people can get into the home. It's hard right now. When it comes down to it, people look at their check stub. And if they don't have a job, because really if you look at it, people's paychecks haven't got any bigger, have they? So how can they afford a home nowadays? I said, from my perspective, is to make sure people actually have a job, a good paying job, and make sure we bring back that life and vitality back here to the Central Valley, because we're losing it. And being a businessman myself, I think I can bring that back, bring some common sense back to Washington, D.C., and to make sure that we're represented.
Okay, so to follow up, so you're on record as opposing doing away with that mortgage interest deduction. If you're elected, you'll be a member of the majority party, you know, because I believe the Republicans are going to hold Congress. Doing away with the mortgage interest deduction is being driven by a Republican chairman. What are you going to do as a freshman congressman when the speaker calls you up and says, "Johnny, I need your vote"? How are you going to stand up to that?
Well, it comes down to I'm only beholden to my constituents. I'm not beholden to a party. That's the whole reason why I'm running, because I think both parties at some time or another are at fault, and that's why we're in a stalemate in Washington, D.C. And it's about time we just have a true leader, somebody that represents the district, somebody that be a statesman, not a politician. And I want to be that person. I think that's what the district is looking for. When I go out and knock on doors and meet with people, they are upset with both sides of the party. and they're ready to get away with that and just say, hey, just be my representative, just fight for me. And I was like, and that's what I'm here to do.
Thank you. Congressman?
Thank you very much. I have always been a strong independent voice for the people of our valley, and with the votes to prove it. I strongly oppose the repeal of the homeowners exemption that has been a consideration on the tax package that Chairman Camp proposed, as you noted, Andy. Fortunately, that tax reform package is did for this year. But, and let's be clear, we do need to reform our tax system. We have one of the most convoluted tax systems in the country. We need to make it simpler. We need to make it fairer for all Americans. But repealing the homeowners exemption as a part of that, I think is foolhardy. We have had a host of tools that go back to the Depression, when we were trying to bring this country back prior to World War II, that were all focused on trying to stabilize the housing market and to incentivize home ownership, as I said earlier. And so the homeowners exemption is not written into the Constitution. It's not one of the amendments that thou shalt have a homeowners exemption, which is why it's important for all of you to have strong advocates like myself that say, yeah, we need to have tax reform, of course, but eliminating the homeowners exemption is not the way that we provide a fairer or simpler tax reform that we ought to have here in America. So I've been very clear on that, and I talk with you folks on a regular basis. I know how difficult it is to qualify not only first-time homeowners or people to refinance their homes or the foreclosure issues that we've dealt with. And the homeowners exemption in all of that is an important part, and I will defend it as long as I'm in Congress.
Thank you. And let's just put the shoe on the other foot. Now, you're a member of the minority party, and there is a chance that the Republicans could take the Senate. So how would you, as a member of a minority party, stop this legislation if both houses are controlled by the Republicans?
Well, I think that happens through a good bipartisan effort. And I have always been about reaching across the aisle. That's what we're trying to do on water right now with the House Republicans and Senator Feinstein and myself to provide short-term and long-term relief. I think there is a housing coalition that is Republican and Democratic alike, and the National Realtors Association is a part of that housing coalition, along with the homeowners, home builders industry and others. And it's important that if tax reform is considered in a Republican-controlled Senate and a Republican-controlled House, as I think will be maintained certainly in the House, it may be a question mark in the Senate at this time, that we maintain that broad bipartisan coalition to ensure that we protect the housing industry and that we incentivize and stabilize long-term interest rates that are a part and parcel of ensuring that we have a strong middle class and that housing is affordable. So that's what I would do to maintain that, because the realtors have been very good in Sacramento and in Washington of maintaining bipartisan coalitions. You're a part of that effort, and I would like to continue to be a part of your effort with ensuring that we make housing an affordable effort for all Americans.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go right back to you, Congressman, and ask you a question about home ownership. As both of you are aware, our organization is a pro-property rights organization, pro-business, and of course pro-home ownership. In California, 62% of the voters are homeowners. First-time home buyers typically make up 38% of the market. Today, they make up only 28%, the lowest level in years and the sharpest decline in the modern era. Some fear that because of this, we may become a renter nation. What's your thoughts on that, and how can a member of Congress continue to stimulate first-time home buyers?
Well, I think there's a number of things that we can do that. First and foremost is ensuring that we have a maintain a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. I think that is an important tool. We sometimes overlook that, but a fixed rate mortgage really allows these first-time home buyers to get into the market. Now, there are other incentives, of course, that are out there. Some work better than others, the HEMP program, the HARP program. Secondly, we, I think, ought to reward responsible homeowners. That's why I've introduced legislation that Senator Boxer's introduced to allow homeowners who are current on their mortgage payments to refinance at today's low interest rates. Refinancing, I think, is an important part of that. It also allows parents to help their children get into that first home by helping sign a note with lenders who are interested in providing the financing. But I think there has to be a balance between what you do as realtors and ensuring that there's enough investments in mortgages with our financial institutions so that there's a mortgage pool to ensure that we have a stable market so that we continue to have a majority of Californians and a majority of Americans that own their home as opposed to renting. Because again, as I said on the outset, I think the basic foundation, literally and figuratively, of American society is home ownership. That foundation and all that comes with home ownership, and that is part and parcel of the American dream.
Thank you. Mr. Teixeira.
Well, I look at it as my oldest daughter is 18, Danae, and she's planning on going to Cal Poly after this election cycle. And once out of college, she's going to want to purchase her home. And that's going to be her first home buyers. In the meantime, a lot of these kids are not being able to find a job right now. Even friends of mine that are in the military that have come back trying to get back into civilian life are having a hard time finding a job. It's about the economic spur that's not here right now. How many around here can tell me today that the economic growth here in this Merced County is great? It is not. I talk to people, look at how many businesses are closed up down Main Street. How many people I talk to out on the west side and south of Merced, Atwater area, and LeGrand, you name it, all in Merced County, that is talking about the water situation, how they can't keep on drilling wells, how they can't keep going the way they're going because they're losing equity because of the price of water and the infrastructure that goes into it. Right now, it is time to make a change. Costa's been in office for over 30 years. And under his leadership, we haven't had the water structure we needed, or the infrastructure we need for water, and the economic growth that we need. As far as, because when you come down to it, economic growth is when you take the government off the backs of the private citizen. Release yourself from being burdened down by regulation, taxes. That's what brings on growth, and people want to stay here in California. How many know of the businesses that have left Merced to move to Texas because of the economic pull down here in this California area? It is time we make a change, and that when I look at when it comes to first-time home buyers, it's about that paycheck. It's about making sure that people are making money to actually afford a home. Because if you can't afford it and you don't have a paycheck to back it up, you're not going to be able to afford a loan and to back it up. And that's my goal, is to make sure that we have a stable economy here for Merced and the Central Valley.
Thank you. We'll go right back to you, Mr. Teixeira. Governor Brown just signed legislation requiring local agencies to set up a water sustainability plan to regulate the groundwater, which is an important issue here in the Valley. It's a tough balance when you balance the water rights versus property rights versus the public good. The state legislature also put on a water bond, a November ballot. I believe it's called Prop 1. I'd like to know if you support that or not. But most people here believe that we have a storage problem as much as a shortage problem, and sometimes priorities get out of balance, the Delta smelt versus farmers. What's your view on this? And again, do you support the water bond? And what's your view of the water situation here in Central Valley? What can you, as a member of Congress, do to solve this problem once and for all?
It comes down to the water bond. A lot of the farmers and friends I know that have worked on this are very concerned about it, because the language is very broad, and it does not really say that the new water storage is actually going to be here for the Central Valley. Let's take, for instance, Temperance Flats. I'm really concerned about the fact that we're going to have this new water storage. Class 2 water is not going to be able to be released to us farmers because they're going to have the extra storage to hold it. In the meantime, it's going to be sold to highest bidder. And do you really think a farmer is going to be able to outbid and outspend people from the Bay Area and LA? It's not going to happen. In the meantime, we're the ones that's going to suffer. And my responsibility is to make sure I stand up for the Central Valley and not for the Bay Area and Bay Area liberals and environmentalists. When it comes down to the EPA, that's one thing we have to fight tooth and toenail in Washington, D.C. And I feel that's one thing Mr. Costa has not really done his due diligence. When it comes down to it, he really is beheading to his leadership in Washington, D.C. And when he was back in the State Assembly and State Senate, he actually represented us. He was a true blue dog. But since he's been in Washington, D.C., it seems like he's lost his footing. And that's the reason why I have thrown my hat in the ring. And that's why it's time that we make this change in November 4th. Because I'm here to fight for you. I'm here to fight for our property rights. We knew, being a dairy farmer, I've seen the results of lower milk prices, and Secretary Ross coming forth with a task force saying that we're going to see what the need is here, when black and white, according to law, she was supposed to uphold it according to all the other states and refused to do that. And I knew once Governor Brown created his water task force that nothing good was going to come out of it for the farmers. And what do you expect us to do except for drill and make sure that our crops are grown and that we actually keep employees employed and we provide for families throughout the Central Valley? And we're in a bad situation. And if we do not have the wet year and snowfall that we need to rebuild and replenish our lakes, we're in bad shape. I mean, it's a scary thought. And I'm going to do my best to fight for us, and not be beholden to nobody except for my constituents in the Central Valley.
Okay, and go back to the bond one. Do you support it, or you sound like you have concerns with it?
I really do have concerns at this point. I would say I'm not for it.
Okay. Mr. Costa, floor is yours.
Thank you, Andy. I am a strong advocate on behalf of fixing our broken water system in California. And no one has done more to bring more water and to work on a host of projects, short-term and long-term, state and federal, than yours truly. But don't take my word for it. Ask the water managers from the water districts, east side and west side throughout this valley, who I work with on a daily basis. I support the water bond. It provides for the first time $2.7 billion for water storage. And the concerns that was noted by the previous speaker, I think, are simply addressed by whatever projects are financed by assuming that the voters pass the $2.7 billion, the projects that are involved in. I mean, these projects cannot be built without a share of local, state, and federal funding. And so the locals aren't going to participate in Temperance Flat or a host of these other projects unless they are assured that they can afford and finance the water that is behind that project. We have a broken water system in this California. We've been kicking the can down the road because of the political fault lines that are historic and they're deep and they're not new. Guess what? We've been fighting over water in California for 100 years. From the Hetch Hetchy project to Owens Valley, and they made a movie about it called Chinatown. That's not new. What you need is a person who understands water and who is a strong advocate. This year we have a good chance to raise the gates in Exchequer. I've been working on that for years. That will provide an additional 55,000 acre-feet of storage for Merced Irrigation District. In addition to that, we've got a project online when we're doing the seismic retrofit on the west side of Merced County on San Luis Reservoir to raise that reservoir 10 feet that will provide additional storage capacity. But we need to do all of the above in terms of the water tools that are in our water toolbox to fix this broken water system. And that's the bottom line. And I will continue to work with all of the parties on a bipartisan basis. And, you know, the proof is in the pudding. The Intertype project has brought in 70,000 acre-feet of additional water every year since we constructed that 4 years ago. Cahuilla Reservoir, the expansion of it, the Kern County Water Bank, all of these are projects that I've been involved in that have brought more water to this valley, along with legislation that I've introduced in recent years. So we got to stay with it, realizing that fighting for water is a part and parcel of California's history, but our future depends upon us growing our water system to support a growing state.
Thank you. Right back to you, Congressman. Everybody likes to beat up on the mistakes of Freddie and Fannie, and now both entities are in conservatorship. What's your thoughts on their role in the secondary market? Don't you agree that we need some type of government loan guarantee?
I think it's absolutely essential. I mean, if the meltdown that we experienced in 2008 proved anything, is that we need to have a guarantor for long-term financing. And oftentimes financial institutions have not been responsible, and we saw that by their actions that culminated in the financial crisis that we experienced in 2008. So as Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are in conservatorship, I think it's important that we maintain explicitly the federal guarantee for long-term mortgages. And that's what the whole secondary mortgage market is all about. And without the government-backed guarantee, you're not going to be able to have a strong secondary mortgage market. And this notion that Henserling and others have put together with the PATH Act, I think is dangerous. And it's why the National Association of Realtors opposes the PATH Act. It's why I oppose the PATH Act. Yes, we've had problems with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and they are in conservatorship, and we are winding them down. But believe me, we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, and so we've got to maintain the government-backed guarantee for mortgages to ensure that we have a strong secondary mortgage market so that we can provide first-time home buyers the opportunity of a long-term 30-year loan and interest rates that are affordable. So that's all part and parcel of ensuring that we have a strong middle class, that we have a strong housing market that hopefully doesn't repeat as and you realtors have bared the brunt of it over the years of these cyclical markets that have high peaks and sharp valleys. And that is not good. It's not only not good for the local economy, but it's not good for a long-term stable housing market.
Thank you, Mr. Teixeira.
Well, I truly believe that, since Freddie and Fannie have been paying back their debt from their bailout, and I'm more of a free market person and do not like the involvement of government into our business. In the meantime, I do know that there is some security when you have the federal government that can back a loan and make sure that there is some guarantee with the loan departments. This is one of those situations where I can almost be at a loss of words because I'm not a realtor and not really a lender to actually know exactly how I can help you out on this, or actually sat in the halls of Congress during sessions to know exactly how to address this issue. But as far as a free market person, I really like to see how things can be moved around in the private sector and make sure that we are stable and not be relying on the government, because every time government gets involved, there is another noose that's put around my neck and around the stifling economy in the Central Valley. So that's pretty much my response on it.
I think I heard you say you do think there should be some type of federal
At this
loan
point,
guarantee.
I believe there is, because I don't think we're out of the woods yet.
Okay, and we'll go right back to you for another question. Home sales in California were strong in 2013. However, home sales seem to have stalled this year, and values have leveled so far in 2014. Some people believe that's tied to the FHA lowering their loan limits this past January. They were dropped in Fresno County, they were dropped in Madera County, and right here in Merced County, the FHA loan limits were dropped from $472,500 all the way down to $271,000. What can you as a member of Congress do to get the FHA to relax those loan limits, or do you agree with the fact that they lowered those limits?
No, sir, I don't agree that they should have lowered those limits, because it's hurting the market here in the Central Valley, especially in Merced County. And with the highest unemployment rate and the highest foreclosure rate that came through Merced County here, we got to make sure we get this thing moving again. And I think it comes down to the fact of making sure that men and women have good paying jobs. and that they can afford these homes. And I think that will help bring up the value of FHA to make sure that, A, these people are, the economy here is strong. Right now, the economy here is weak, and I think that's what they're basing their finding on, is because the median income per household is low. And I think that's one way of bringing that up, is bringing back stability to the working man, the family man that's trying to make a living for his family.
Okay, and Mr. Costa.
Thank you. This is an effort that I've been engaged in for a while. We opposed strongly FHA lowering the loan rates. When you look at a map of the United States, we all know that housing costs vary from region to region. And for a combination of reasons, housing costs in the West are higher than in other parts of the country. And therefore, the loan limits need to reflect that. That's the reality. And so when they lowered the loan limits, both in Merced County and Madera County and in Fresno County, we wrote a number of letters. We, more importantly, engaged in legislation, H.R. 4208, which the National Realtors Association supports, of which I am a co-sponsor, that would change the formula on how housing rates are established to take into account cost of living. Cost of living is higher in California. It's higher in the West. It's higher than other parts of the country. And so the loan limits need to reflect the cost of living issues that are indigenous in regions throughout the country. And that's been the problem with FHA. And so therefore, we are continuing to try to let them understand that their loan limits need to be reflective of cost of living issues and home prices from region to region. And we're going to continue to fight that fight, and that's why I think H.R. 4208, which would change the formula under which FHA establishes these loan rate limits, is modified in a way to reflect the cost of living. Because clearly that's important. The market, as you said, Andy, in Merced County and in other parts of the valley was stronger in 2013. It softened now in 2014, and I think part of the loan limits have had an impact. And so I will continue to fight on your behalf to make sure that that's taken into account.
Okay, one more question, then we'll take some from the audience, and we'll go right back to you, Congressman. The Terrorism Risk Insurance Act is due to expire at the end of 2014. The act, which is a result of the 9/11 attacks, is critical to ensuring financing is available in the commercial market. Without it, and without it soon, most experts believe commercial values could drop and commercial development may stall. Where are you on this legislation, and why do you think it's stalled in Congress?
Well, I think there's a different philosophy, and I am a strong supporter of maintaining the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act. I obviously can't talk about the details of the classified briefings that we are getting on a regular basis. But with ISIL and other terrorist organizations, we know that there are groups that want to perpetrate threat on Americans and property, as we saw in 9/11, which is why we created the Terrorist Risk Insurance Act, with overwhelmingly bipartisan support. It's due to expire. The Senate has passed by an overwhelmingly bipartisan vote of 93-4 to extend it for another 7 years. I support that. There is a separate measure in the House that would wind it down that Chairman Hensarling is carrying, and I think it's a poor approach to dealing with the risks that are inherently there among commercial property in America. Let's make no mistake about it. Whether it's efforts to sabotage our financial infrastructure, or whether it's efforts to sabotage and to create horrific incidences on commercial property, as we saw in 9/11, or whether it's other efforts that they are coming up and dreaming new schemes all the time, in which literally there are thousands of efforts and attempts that are being made. We have to keep America safe. And providing that terrorism risk insurance and extending it for another 7 years, as the Senate proposal would do, is what I believe we have to do. And the House proposal, I think, falls way short of that. And but it is backed by a number of folks, Tea Party folks and others, who really think that government shouldn't have a role in providing that terrorism risk insurance. I disagree.
Thank you. Mr. Teixeira.
Well, I believe we have to reauthorize this in December as well. I think it all comes down to the fact that our president right now has been very weak when it comes to our foreign policy and making sure that we stand up for America and for our freedom. And unfortunately, it seems like Mr. Acosta sometimes falls lock in step with President Obama on his agenda, and don't want to uphold our values and our freedom, and making sure that we remain true and remain a great nation to everybody else, and we are a beacon to everybody. And that is the reason why, as far as when it comes to the Terrorism Insurance Act, we have to make sure that we bring life back to the market as far as people being scared as far as commercial lending. And we have to make sure that we step up, because unfortunately the administration is not doing that.
Okay, Ernie, we'll take a question from the floor. Ernie Ochoa, past president.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy. And again, welcome candidates. I will again start with the first question. And my question is for both of the candidates. Currently, both residential property taxes and commercial real estate property taxes are protected by Proposition 13. And there was legislation introduced this year that failed, but we fear that it will come back again. And the intent of that legislation is to split the property tax roll and to treat commercial property taxes differently than residential. Not only would a commercial property be reassessed with the legislation upon transfer of ownership, but also when the business sells. And if you ask any commercial real estate practitioner, you know, that could cost businesses in California billions and billions of dollars when it comes to their leases. It would complicate all commercial leases. So in your opinion, is that a bad thing or a good thing?
Let's start with you, Mrs. Teixeira.
Well, Ernie, I believe that's a bad thing. Anything that will affect, when it comes down to taxes, you know, I'm totally against anything that's going to, again, stifle us, the working class, you know, those of us that want to provide for our families and for others.
Mr. Costa?
Yeah, thank you, Ernie. As you know, that's an issue that's being considered on the state level. So that will ultimately, when the legislature goes back next year, whether or not that comes back remains to be seen. I think it's a bad thing. I think that I would support the California Realtors Association, the efforts to maintain the sort of tax benefits that Prop 13 has provided. But having said that, I'm a farmer, and you know, like all of you, we have property, and I, you know, have to pay my income tax on my farm property, and I mean my property tax, excuse me, and that's why I carried the Super Williamson Act years ago to provide property tax relief for agriculture. And so, again, I said earlier on that we need to reform a tax system in this country that is convoluted, complicated, and not fair. But in doing so, we have to use common sense. And for those of us who are involved in businesses, whether it's commercial or whether it's our family business or whether it's our farming, as I am involved, maintaining certainty that Prop 13 has established is important. So while it's not an issue that we would take up in Washington, it's an issue that I would want to partner with to try to provide whatever support I can, depending upon what happens in Sacramento.
Great, thank you. Okay, Ernie, another question.
Yes, I will start here to my left, and this is candidates. This is Kay Flanagan, who is a past president of our association.
First, let me thank you both for attending today. Just sort of something you can put in your bonnet. When I'm working with my clients, I'll ask them or tell them, let me see, first, we have higher PMI for our clients if they're using an FHA. Most of the entry-level people are using those. Our government raised the PMI. Then it used to be, once you got your loan to value down to 80%, the PMI dropped. Yay, I've owned a piece of property that happened. That was great, $92 I didn't have to pay. That is now for the life of the loan. And then they lower our limits. So I have two particular single women right now that I sold property last year that could not buy their homes today because it dropped from 400 down to 200 and change. And I'll say to my clients, don't you feel helped by our government? That's what you need to put in your hat and talk to our powers that be, because it has hurt the American entry-level and repeat people. So just, I know you can't do anything about it, but you need to know what's happening.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, it's FHA PMI. Next. When you got member questions, sorry. I'm sorry, we do member questions.
Sorry, Mr. Derby.
He's a great supporter of our organization.
Yes, he is.
Well, we got to stick to the rules.
Over here to my right, we have Lauren Ganella. He's also a past president of our Realtor Association here.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. Congressman, could you do me a favor? Could you clarify for me? You indicated that you have co-sponsored legislation with Senator Boxer that allows homeowners to refinance their homes at lower rates. Does this also allow homeowners that are underwater to refinance?
Yes, and it's one of the issues that we attempt to deal with. You know, I mentioned earlier the HARP and HEMP programs. Some have had more effectiveness than others. What we find when people come to our office, call our office, that have been unsuccessful at dealing with their financial institution, is that too often they've waited too long and they are in the arrears 3, 4, 6 months. And those are the most difficult to try to keep in their home. But I tell you, one of the most rewarding things that we have been able to do in recent years is when people are threatened with foreclosure and losing their home, is to keep them in that home. And so this legislation, you know, I mean, there's a lot of folks that are looking at it. The National Realtors Association support the legislation, is but one means to try to deal with those who are underwater. But clearly, obviously, there are limits to what you can do. And when some people get underwater to such a degree, obviously, you have no choice but to foreclose, notwithstanding our efforts to try to keep people in their homes. So it's one of the most difficult pieces of casework we get, and literally we've had hundreds of them over the last 2 years, and a lot of times realtors bring them to our office, and we work with the realtors, we work with the homeowner, and I think we've been more successful than not to get the extension, to get then the refinance, and to get the financial institution to pay attention. I mean, these hotlines that people get on and they call and they sit on there literally for over an hour or more. And of course, when we call, the financial institution responds. And so we're able to oftentimes make a difference.
Mr. Sheriff, like to offer a comment?
I can't wait to be in Washington, D.C. to represent you guys and take on this issue.
Okay, another question from the floor. Got Mr. Scott Oliver here.
Here to my right, this is Scott Oliver, who's also a past president of our association.
We have a lot of past presidents here.
There's a few of us. I would guess that you both agree jobs in California, especially in the Central Valley, are important. With the new ADA compliancy, and actually it's not new, but all of a sudden there's a lot of bogus lawsuits going on here in the Central Valley, which has caused at least 3 businesses, if not more, to go out of business. I don't think the intent of the law was written to put people out of business. Right. And unfortunately, when we write laws, congressmen, senators write laws, it's to the far left, to the far right, without thinking about the middle point. I think people should be given the chance and the ability to bring things up to code or to correct them before we slap them with a fine or a lawsuit. What's happening now is they're getting written up, they're having to meet compliancy, which I don't think that's the problem, but then they're getting sued anyway, mostly by people that don't even live in the area. I don't think that's fair, and I'd like to see how both of you gentlemen are going to address this.
Congressman, how are you going to fix that problem?
Well, you are absolutely correct. I think I don't know if it's proper to call it a scam, but there certainly is an effort going on that's more than anecdotal of folks that are using the ADA, the Americans for Disabilities Act, to as a means to sue businesses to collect on fees when there's no real focus, it seems to me, on many of these lawsuits, and I get them anecdotally, to the property owners who are, whether it's a commercial property or residential property, to address the issue on ADA compliance. And so I'm working, so what do? I'm working to try to make sure that common sense prevails. And if you have some anecdotal stories that you'd like to share, we're putting a group together. We had this issue discussed last week, and we're setting up a meeting that my staff and I are working on to really try to engage some of the groups that are involved in this to ensure that this law is not abused in the way that you described in certain instances, in which I am aware of certain instances. So we're trying to bring in the appropriate folks to say, look, a person who has a handicap ought to have access. That's the whole thrust of it. But businesses ought to be given the time and the ability to provide the sort of ramps or adjustments. And this notion of coming on with fines and then other kinds of punitive efforts is just not right. And so we're trying to get to the bottom of it, and we're working on it. And I'd like to, after this meeting, sit down and get your information so that you can be a part of this other effort that we're working on.
Hey, Mr. Teixeira.
Well, being throughout this district, I have ran into several friends and colleagues and business owners that have been hit by these fraudulent lawsuits. And when it comes down to it, I could see a legitimate cause, of maybe neglect, but the majority of every case that has been brought to me has been because of fraudulent lawsuits. People are looking for an easy handout, a quick way to make some cash, and really can care less about the livelihood of a family business owner that is going to lose their business because of something like this. And for me, as being your next congressman in November, is to make sure that I do fight for you guys and for small businesses, to make sure that we're well represented and that common sense prevails in Washington, D.C., because it's very lacking in Washington, D.C.
Okay, thank you. Ernie, another question?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back over to this side of the room, and our friend Mr. Mike Salvadori, who is also a past president of our association, has a question.
That was around World War I. Anyway, frivolous lawsuits. All these subdivisions. I mean, I have a couple of comments. Attorneys are causing this. I mean, we can't fix it because there are attorneys that are writing letters to homeowners saying, if there's anything wrong with your home, such as cracking, sinking, settling, please sign this paper and we'll represent you in a class action lawsuit. What these people don't realize is when they start to think about selling their home, this is on their record. It's a matter of record, and it impacts the value of their property, and they aren't made aware of that. So that's another thing. I don't know how you fix it. But Congressman Costa mentioned about variable interest rates. Years ago, when I was making money in this business, 2000 to 2008, I bought quite a few rental homes, which I still own. Most of them had to be put on a variable rate interest. Lauren this year gave us his forecast saying interest rates are going to rise, and that really depressed me because my interest rates have been under 3% on all of those variable rate loans for the last almost 10 years. I mean, it's going to take a long time to catch up now. Some are at 2.75. Where the fixed rates, where I had to have fixed rate loans, they're 5%, 5.5%, 6%, whatever the rate was. So sometimes fixed rates aren't the best way to go. I have had much more luck, if you will, with variable rate loans. What do you think about interest rates? I mean, the government's borrowing so much money that you would think that would have an impact on our interest rates. Is it? Or is that what's holding the interest rates down?
Well, we have had a policy to try to, as a part of this fragile economic recovery, to purposely hold interest rates down. But at some point, obviously, in terms of trying to ensure that we have a balanced money supply, that has to be looked at. The variable interest rates have been beneficial, as you pointed out. But Mike, I also remember in times back in the 90s and back in the 80s where we had interest rates that exceeded 12 and 14%. So there's a balance in terms of, and with balloon payments, and we remember the times where we had creative financing, and both the homeowners and the and the whole housing industry suffered as a result of falls in the housing market that took place. So I'm not so sure that outside of being flexible, when we try to ensure that we have long-term mortgages, obviously it's preferable to keep interest rates down, and as long as we can keep inflation at bay, which is the other side of the coin, then we must, because that allows the economy to improve, both commercially as well as in all assets, whether we're talking about agriculture, business, the like. So low interest rates and the intent on keeping interest rates low has been a strategy that I think has been helpful. But we also have to guard against inflation. Obviously, we've been in high inflationary times in past decades, and that has its own adverse effects as well.
So you... So safe to say, Congressman, that you support the current monetary policy, I guess.
Of maintaining low interest rates, yes.
Okay. Mr. Teixeira?
I'd have to agree as well.
Okay.
On that as well.
All right. I think we're about there. One more final question. We'll start with you, Mr. Teixeira. How much money have you raised for this campaign, and who is your largest contributor?
My largest contributor is private business. It's the farming industry. And boy, I wish I had known you would ask a question like that as far as because we just raised
ballpark,
probably around 250.
250,000.
So 250,000. But we do know that during this race that my opponent was going to have all the money in the world to help him out. But I knew that when it comes down to it, it's a face-to-face with a candidate. There's people I've knocked on their doors and they said, "John, I've lived here 25 years and never had a candidate knock on my door." And I know it's going to be boots on the ground, pounding the pavement, and get my message out, because there's one thing that trumps money, and that's a face-to-face. It's a message that resonates with the district, resonates with the people. When I come out and I see somebody and I shake their hands like, "Boy, you really are a farmer. Look at the calluses on your hands." I was like, "Yes, sir, I am." And I really love to have your vote. I want to serve you. I want to be your statesman. I want to be the person that's in office that's working the darndest for you, to give everything he's got, every last blood, sweat, and tear for you. And me and my family, we've laid it all on the line to make sure that we represent you, giving it all the best we got. And that's all I can do for you, is to make sure that I'm honest with you, upfront with you, give you my honest opinion, and then make sure that you are honest with me on what your perspective is, to make sure that I can represent you in Washington, D.C., because I'm only as good as the people that tell me what I need to do in Washington, because I do not have a hidden agenda. I don't need a job. I have the dairy business. We've been there since 1955. My mom, my grandma's still on the dairy, my dad, my 4 kids, my sister, my brother, and plus I have my own welding fabrication business. And I don't need Washington, D.C. to have a job and have a paycheck. I know how to create my own job, how to create a paycheck, and how to work and provide for my family. And I want to go to Washington, D.C. to make sure I represent you and make sure that everybody else can do that as well, and make sure that you can live the American dream.
Okay. Congressman, how much money have you raised, and who is your largest contributor?
Well, we are limited by how much we can receive, $5,000 a pack and $2,600 per individual. And so we have a whole lot of people in that category, including the National Realtors Association, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, most of the agricultural organizations, from the California Farm Bureau to most of the dairy organizations. And the bipartisan support that I have has allowed us to raise, at this time, over $1 million. We'll report over $900,000 in the bank as of today's reporting period, and So, you know, it's a reflection of the fact that I think I have tremendous bipartisan support, and so many people in this valley have contributed, have maxed out, as we term it. They've given the $2,600 that they can give under law, or if they have a political action committee, they have given the $5,000. And I think when you look at my contributions, you'll see that 70% of the money I've raised is people of Republican persuasion. I'm very proud of that fact. The fact is that we've had a long-term working relationship. Now, Johnny and I think agree certainly on one point here, and that is that accessibility of your elected official is absolutely critical. That's why I come home every weekend. It's why I spend 12 hours a week commuting between my district and Washington, D.C., and 6 time zones, because this is home. People sometimes ask me, how you like living in Washington? I say, I don't live there, I work there. So I've spent 3 weekends in Washington this year. And half the time when I'm in the district, which is every week, I spend in Merced County, because I think that it's absolutely critical that I be accessible here. And yes, we both have God has blessed us, the good fortune that I don't depend upon my income as a member of Congress to support myself. My family's been farming for 3 generations, over 110 years in this valley, and I still farm today. And thank God for almonds. The price is pretty good these days. But you know, accessibility, to have the honor and the privilege to serve each and every one of you in our nation's capital is something that I every morning wake up and think about, how can I help? How can I make our government more responsive to you, the taxpayers, and how can I improve the quality of life? That's why we've been making such an effort on bringing more water to this valley. That's why we've been making such an effort to help Castle Air Force Base in its revitalization effort to bring more jobs to the people of Merced County. It's why I've worked with the Realtors to deal with this foreclosure crisis. It's why that we continue to help in so many different ways with individual constituents, veterans, and those who are serving in the America's military, the Veterans Home that I got constructed several years ago. At the end of the day, you want someone who's accessible, who every day understands the challenges you are facing. That's why I come home every week, spending 80 hours or more working on your behalf. And I want to thank you for that privilege and that honor.
Thank you. And we are going to do a closing. So Johnny, or Mr. Shara, if you'd like to give us a 2-minute dissertation in your closing remarks, kind of sum it up for us. And you can take, we'll be a little bit generous with the time. So
Well, I thought we pretty much finished up the last time, but you know what?
Well, that's all right.
I thank you so much for everybody for coming out today. If you have any questions, please come up to me and talk to me. Please go to my Facebook. Those are going to be watching, go to my Facebook, go to my website, learn about me. Contact me personally. I will come out with you and I will talk with you, host a meet and greet. Let me meet more people. You have somebody that's on the fence that don't know who to vote for, let me talk to them. I know I can turn them over, because it's about time we turn somebody in Washington, D.C. that has a business background, that's an actual farmer, someone that cares about the Central Valley and hasn't given lip service for 30 years. And it's about time we make sure that we do this in November 4th. Come out to the election, vote for me, vote for the farmer on the ballot, the true farmer. Make sure that your voice is heard this election cycle. This is the time to make it happen, and especially with the latest poll having me up 4 points. We're going to make this happen. Hard work prevails. My dad told me in life when I was a young boy, he said, Johnny, nothing in life comes simple. You are going to have to work by the sweat of your brow to make a living. And I have took that with me since I was a young boy. I still have an old shovel that I have sitting in the corner of my shop. My dad gave it to me when I was 14 years old. Blade's only about this tall on it now. He would put me in the end of a cornfield or a cotton field and say, you know what, son, you're going to be here all day until you get this all done. Shovel all those rows out so we can start the water tomorrow morning. And boy, my hands were stuck to that shovel handle at the end of the day about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And you know what? That's what I'm going to do for you in Washington, D.C. I'm going to take this bull by the horns, grab onto it, and make sure that I will not give up till we accomplish what we need here in the Central Valley to make sure that we stay alive.
Thank you. Congressman.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the Board of Realtors again and the other sponsors, co-sponsors of this debate. I think it's important that we have an opportunity to discuss the issues, and you've provided that opportunity this morning. So thank you so very much for your efforts, and more importantly, what you do every day to make Merced County a better place to live in. As we look upon 35 days from today, November 4th, when America will go to the polls, I think it's important that we all note that everybody votes count. And the trust and the support that I've been able to have over the years, I think is a reflection of the fact that I'm hands-on, that I'm home in the district all the time. There are a number of inaccuracies about my opponent's comments in his close. I won't give you the recitation. Those numbers aren't accurate, but the fact is I kind of take issue that my family's farm is not real. You want to come out to Chateau Fresno, I'll show it to you. I'll show you my weight tag fees for the harvest in the last 6 weeks. I'll show you what I pay in property tax. You know, we all work hard. And this mythical figure that my opponent is trying to create, let me just tell you something. It doesn't exist. Not the person that you know, that I know. And the fact is that we've had overwhelming bipartisan support, and it's why we've got such tremendous individual contributions that have been made, but the endorsement of so many organizations that reflect the part and parcel, the heart of the people of this valley. And that's who I care about at the end of the day. That's why I have the passion and the fire to desire to continue to solve problems on your behalf and our nation's capital. And that's what we do. So thank you very much for the time and the opportunity, and I look forward to continuing to work with you into the new Congress.
Thank you, gentlemen. That concludes our debate for today. And we'd like to, again, welcome you to watch it on YouTube, SunServe's website, our Facebook page, and anywhere else you can find it. But thank you very much, and how about a round of applause for our guests?